Now to tonight's big story. There is no question Portland is facing a homeless crisis. We see it every day. One way to help tackle the issue, local government is throwing millions of dollars into emergency shelter beds. But here's the thing, existing shelters aren't even full. Here's investigative reporter Kyla Boshi.
Despite a record number of people living in tents and RVs throughout Portland, a KGW investigation found hundreds of shelter rooms and beds aren't being used. In June, publicly supported shelters in Multnomah County had an occupancy rate of 81%, according to the Joint Office of Homeless Services. The county has a total of roughly 1,400 shelter units, which means on any given night, roughly 264 spaces are vacant.
I prefer to be outside because that way I can get up and move and I can sleep in a nice area.
Unhoused Portlanders Timothy Varner and Dave Cooper prefer to sleep outside at Seawall Crest Park.
I like my freedom. I don't want to go in there and to a shelter and, oh, you got to sign in and sign out and you got to do this, do that. And it's like, no.
Shelters just aren't a viable option, the men say, because there's no privacy. They don't like the curfew and worry about safety.
You're sleeping right next to a person that you have no idea who they are. And, they might roll over, they might have bugs, they might, pee all over themselves, whatever.
Publicly funded shelter beds can include both traditional sleeping spaces and alternative units, such as small, tiny homes or converted motel rooms. In June, 13 shelters in Multnomah County had occupancy rates below 75%. For example, Walnut Park Shelter had occupancy of 55%, which means on average 27 of the shelter's 60 beds were not used on any given night. The Northeast Portland shelter serves men, women, and couples by providing bunk beds with space to leave belongings during the day.
Ideally, we would like shelters to be at 100% utilization. We also realize that that is not going to be the average norm.
Shannon Singleton is the interim director of the Joint Office of Homeless Services. She explained some beds might sit empty because they've been reserved for the night and the person didn't show up. Many shelters operate on a reservation system similar to a restaurant or a hotel. They don't make people line up at the door anymore.
So this system means that if we put somebody on a wait list, they get assigned a bed, we give them time to show up. So there are going to be nights where the bed's assigned to somebody, but then they may not show up that very night or right away to take that bed, but they can the next day.
Many people experiencing homelessness have expressed skepticism with shelters.
No doors, no walls, no doors, no nothing. Couldn't do it.
A statewide survey of the homeless found the biggest issues with shelters: personal safety concerns, personal privacy, restrictive check-in and check-out times, and overcrowding and unsanitary conditions. A 2017 KGW investigation titled Tent City identified similar concerns after surveying 100 people living in tents.
Given a choice tonight, would you rather sleep here or in a shelter?
Probably here. Less people, less headaches.
89% said they'd rather stay in a tent over a shelter. Michael Bruner's sprawling tent encampment sits next to Edwards Elementary in southeast Portland. The 54-year-old Portlander said he prefers living in outdoor conditions even during the cold, wet winter months.
I think that shelters are too temporary and there's too much stimulation. I'm high-functioning autistic and I just couldn't. It's not something for me. Too much going on.
Nationwide, the number of shelter beds has remained relatively flat, although occupancy rates have declined. 73% of shelter beds were occupied in 2021, down from 82% in 2020, according to a federal report. Community leaders and advocates have pushed to increase the supply of shelter beds for people experiencing homelessness in Portland. In June, Multnomah County approved a record budget for the upcoming year, including $130 million for shelters and outreach.
The resolution is adopted.
So how do you justify that increased funding, increased capacity when existing shelters are not full?
I think the way that we operate shelter makes it really conducive to how people are able to access the space. Folks are on wait lists for all sorts of reasons and from all sorts of places. It doesn't mean we can find them right away, and we shouldn't just skip them.
Advocates admit creating more shelter beds doesn't necessarily mean people will use them. Instead, the government and nonprofits running shelters need to make them more accommodating by offering more privacy and alternative settings like sleeping pods. Many shelters allow pets, allow residents to stay for extended periods of time, and let them securely store their belongings during the day. Several people experiencing homelessness told KGW there should be less emphasis on emergency shelters and more focus on affordable housing, mental health, and drug treatment.
I mean, I just think that if they focus more on prevention instead of what do we do now, it could turn around. It's the only way it could turn around.
Housing advocates agree shelters are only one piece of the puzzle in helping to curb homelessness. The question is how to make that piece fit when a lot of people just aren't willing to go into shelters. Kyle Aboshi, KGW News.